Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to The Audio Analyst. There can be no question that my first exposure to the Mola Mola Lupe Phonostage in April of last year left me more than merely impressed. In fact, you can see my initial reaction to this remarkable phono preamplifier on Bill Parrish's GTT Audio YouTube channel in his episode 78 or my episode 115, both from March of 2023, and I've included links to both those videos in today's description section. What may surprise you is that this now standalone, remarkable product is the full realization of what was originally designed as an optional add-on phono preamplifier plug-in card for Mola Mola's superb Makua preamplifier and Kula integrated amplifier. My first take with this diminutive and, well, not exactly falling into the budget category at $9,850, is still remarkably affordable, was almost impossible to believe. And as engaging as it was at first blush, after living with this little fish in my reference rig here, it has made a deep and lasting impression. So today, let's take a closer look at this remarkably versatile, surprisingly small, and relatively affordable reference-grade phonostage. What I mean by small is that it uses the same form factor as Mola Mola's Tchaikovsky DAC. It is just about 4 1/4 inches or 110 millimeters tall, 7 3/4 inches or 200 millimeters wide, and 12 5/8 inches or 320 millimeters deep. While the rear, sides, and bottom are flat surfaces, the face is concave top to bottom, and the top undulates like a sine wave. Now, this clearly unorthodox casework, with its non-parallel wavy top and face, in fact, is not just shaped that way for the unique aesthetic it provides. It is done to also help mitigate vibration-induced resonances in this casework. The bowed faceplate is elegantly Spartan and mimics that of the Tchaikovsky DAC. With its 4 small spherical buttons, each with a surrounding white LED to show which one is engaged, equidistantly spaced horizontally across the vertical center of the face, 2 on either side of the central 1 5/8 inch or 40 millimeter round display, with a small power indicator LED centered above it where the face and top panel meet. There is virtually no unused space on the rear panel, which, moving from left to right, contains a set of stereo XLR inputs, followed by 3 sets of stereo RCA inputs, a set of RCA stereo outputs, a set of XLR outputs, followed by a triggered input and a triggered output, and finally, the IEC socket for the AC power cord. Manipulation of the 4 buttons on the Lupe's face allow for quick and convenient control options like toggling between on and standby, choosing your input, toggling mute and active, that sort of selection. While I will leave it to owners to absorb all those details as daily users, the real experience comes with the installation and use of the iOS or Android Mola Mola app with your mobile devices. Once installed, you start at a home page that displays connectivity and offers 4 user-configurable presets, including settings such as display brightness, subsonic filtering, mono summing, and polarity inversion of left, right, or both channels. With more granular exploration of the settings, you discover remarkable control of the 2 separate moving magnet and moving coil input stages. Now, this is important to note because most other phono preamplifiers simply add another gain stage following the moving magnet circuit to create their moving coil circuit. After selecting your mode, moving coil or moving magnet, you will discover the enormous control you have over sensitivity, with 10 different gain stages available, and termination loading. Moving magnet gain options are either 45 or 50 decibels, but the moving coil gain options are among the most widely diverse selection I've yet run across, including 52, 57, 62, 67, 72, 77, 82, and 87 decibels. Resistive loading options include 60, 100, 150, 250, 400, 650, 1,000, 18,000, 30,000, 47,000, 75,000, and 120,000 ohms, while capacitive loading values of 0, 50, 100, 150, 220, 270, 330, and 380 picofarads are available. Okay, now get this. It offers those LP archivists out there 72 different preset equalization curves, the RIAA standard, and 71 others. No, really. The EQ drop-down box lists all the combinations of record labels and periods that they were able to obtain data for, virtually every published cutting curve, including many 78 RPM versions. And if for some reason you are unable to find a specific setting, or if you just want to explore, you may individually manage bass shelving in 2 different time constant settings. With Lupe's bass shelf settings of 14, 18, or 20 decibels, if you perceive the bottom end performance as too boomy or thick, you can decrease it. Conversely, you may try increasing it if the bass is lacking in weight or authority. Using its T1 constant settings of 200, 250, 318, 400, or 450 microseconds, you have control of the bass turnover point. If you find the sound to be too woolly, you may increase that time constant, or conversely, you may lower it if it sounds too thin. With the T2 adjustments of 50, 64, 75, or 100 microseconds, you can manage the treble roll-off. Increase the time constant if the sound is too bright or edgy. Decrease it if it lacks definition or detail. Once you've hit on your desired result, you just save it as one of those 4 mentioned configurable presets on the homepage. Now, believe it or not, I've saved the best for last. Not only are all these remarkable settings, adjustments, and presets made in the analog domain, but they can all be selected and adjusted from your seat while you are listening to the Lupe. How's that for versatility and convenience? Now, for a closer look at how the app functions, please take a look at my episode 115, starting at about 3 minutes 30 seconds into it. I have also provided a link with that starting point bookmarked in today's description section. I don't know how many phono preamps you may have experience with, but I've had my hands on more than just a few over the past 5 decades. Products ranging from just hundreds of dollars to those approaching the $100,000 mark. I can tell you that none of them offer this degree of functionality, versatility, and remote control capability, regardless of how much they may cost. Honestly, as close as my $19,000 reference Phonostage, the Dynamic Sounds Associates Phono 3, comes by way of offering 6 different gain settings, 5 selectable EQ curves, and providing muting, display brightness, gain and loading option selection from its remote, it still doesn't begin to match the adaptability and convenience that this superb new entry from Mola Mola offers. Okay, so it clearly has massive versatility and remote functionality going for it. But how does it sound? I started with the typical litany of my Warhorse recordings, music I've listened to for decades, including things like Harry James and his big band, the King James version, Sheffield Lab 3. From the opening drums, piano, and bass on Corner Pocket, through the last blat of the horns, the utter naturalness of this direct-to-disc recording put me at ease and had me smiling. There is an inescapable authenticity to instrumental timbre on this record, with a vividness of tone color and an enveloping sense of texture. And it offers a sense of drive and dynamics, both in terms of scale and gradation, that is more than merely superb, it is infectious. The Lupe was up to the task of uncovering and recreating all of it, without smearing a beat or omitting any known nuance. I headed on to another Sheffield oldie but goodie, the 7-minute Improvisations by Jim Keltner on side 1 of the Sheffield drum record, Sheffield Lab 14. Again, this direct-to-disc recording really taxes your system, from its transparency in revealing individual drum skim tone, to its remarkable dynamic attack and scale, to even communicating the effusive nature of Jim's under-his-breath murmurings. The Lupe's performance with this track was completely unimpeachable. Next up, a move to classical with one of my favorite performances and recordings of Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings, the 1989 King Record Company's The Super Analog Disc reissue of the 1979 London recordings released by the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields under Neville Marriner, K38C 70040. This recording not only conveys the remarkably complex and vibrant tonality of the masked strings, but on occasion, it reveals the often muted or otherwise veiled beauty of the wooden bodies of the bigger instruments like the cellos and double basses. And its ability to reveal the buoyant energy during the Andante Allegro Moderato is riveting. Lupe's ability to capture all these attributes and render them so readily is simply captivating. Next up, one of my absolute favorite recordings and a true litmus test for any stylus or phonostage. Mobile Fidelity's 1981 half-speed remaster of the 1972 London Records release of Beethoven's Symphony No. 9 by the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and Chorus under Sir George Solti, MFSL 2-516. Side 4 of this 2-record set covers the fourth movement, the Presto, featuring Friedrich Schiller's Ode to Joy. This is an exemplary recording, one that I did my first Guilty Treasure episode on, episode 2, back in May of 2020. And yes, I've included a link to that episode in today's description section as well. But this recording captures the orchestra's power and full frequency extension, especially on the low end, in a manner more faithful to what I experienced during a live orchestral performance in a good venue than many others. Its ability to so clearly render the difference in physical height between the soprano, Pilar Lorengar, and the male soloists during their interplay is simply remarkable, as is the unusual corporal entrance of bass soloist Martí Telvela at about 6:40, making this a standout recording, as well as a superbly challenging LP to replicate faithfully. But I have to tell you, the Lupe pulled this off with the grace and composure of a much more costly phono preamplifier, in many ways rivaling my twice as costly reference Phonostage. Moving on to my mainstay, classic and progressive rock. Whether recreating the wily charm of Ricky Lee Jones's voice, or the full shred of Joe Satriani's distorted Ibanez, the deep, rich baritone crooning of David Bowie, to the texture and punch of Neil Peart's Tama, Ludwig, or Drum Workshop drum kit. From Tori Amos's emotional, breathy, purring mezzo-soprano musings to Ian Anderson's breathing and singing at the same time into his Selmar Gold Seal flute, nothing was slighted, not in degree of nuanced timbre, tone color, texture, dynamic expressiveness, pitch definition, or overall extension. Another thing that is remarkable about the Lupe is how bloody quiet it is. Its self-noise threshold is inaudible, and its distortion ratings are listed as immeasurable. That is something I cannot say about all the other phonostages in this price range, or even many that cost twice as much. In fact, I will share with you that another overachieving Phonostage that I've had in my stable for years, one that carries almost the exact same retail price as the Lupe, was wholly embarrassed by Lupe's performance and has since found a new home. The only nit I can find to pick with the Lupe is a slight faltering of absolute pitch definition and texture below about 40 or 45 hertz. Yet, when listening to vinyl with Lupe, you are treated to so much of the sonic accomplishments of much more costly and considerably less versatile and flexible phono preamplifiers that unless you have lived with that slightly more accurate performance possible from the very best phono preamplifiers in that bandwidth, most listeners will neither notice nor care. What should have become clear by this point is that while I unconsciously and instinctively start listening to any newly installed piece of gear with my analyst's hat on and digital notepad fired up, within a matter of minutes after dropping a needle when listening to my favorite music with the Mola Mola Lupe, I quickly dismissed those cares, put down my notes, and was simply transported into the message of the music. This is a powerfully musical and flexible component, one that has the chops and adaptability to make it your last purchase and get most listeners off the Phonostage merry-go-round forever. To sum up, I never once felt I was in any way being shortchanged by the sonic signature of the Lupe. Its unsurpassed versatility and reference performance have earned it my unreserved recommendation. It would not be difficult to pay twice as much for a phono preamp and still not get one this good. As always, thanks for taking the time to drop by today. Further information on supporting the channel may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time, cheers.